Don't invite Mr. Slippers into your home. Oh, poor kitty, my 10-year-old cried. Annie scooped a teensy grey kitten out of an abandoned cardboard box on our road. It wasn't the feline's fetching features that won me over. Not the adorable bright red collar with Mr. Slippers colourfully scrawled on its tag. No, it was my daughter's face. I'm a soft-tot, and those big brown eyes of hers were swimming with hopeful tears. All right, listen, Puss in Boots, I said, referring not to Mr. Slippers, but to Annie and her sweet eyes. This kitten has a collar, so you know we need to try to find his owners, right? Annie began to protest. But someone left him in a cardboard box on the side of the... Look, I'll put up some found posters, then I'll take him to the vet, I said. It was the first time my daughter had seemed genuinely joyous since her mother died. It had been a harrowing year. A person feels grief twofold when they see it in a child's face. But Mr. Slippers seemed like the answer to our problems. Of course, before either of us became too attached, I took the cat directly to the vet. If he were microchipped, I wouldn't have wanted to get into any trouble. No chip. Definitely an abandoned kitty, the vet somberly told me. There's nothing tying Mr. Slippers to anyone, other than his collar. If he likes you, you should keep him. When I picked up Annie from school, I told her the good news. She gleefully embraced me, and Mr. Slippers was quickly initiated into the family. Annie played with him every day. He grew quickly, far too quickly. But it wasn't until one particular Saturday outing to the park that fear started to slither into my heart. May I bring Mr. Slippers? Annie politely pleaded. I rolled my eyes and smiled. Cats don't really join humans on walks, Annie. But he wants to go on the lead, she insisted. I laughed again. Oh, does he? Have you been talking to him? Annie nodded furiously, scowling at me. I didn't want to rock the boat. Mr. Slippers seemed to be aiding her grieving process, and my daughter's happiness eased the ache in my gut. I agreed, stifling the urge to laugh along with strangers as they looked at the cat on the lead. Mr. Slippers needs to go to the bathroom, Annie suddenly said. I swallowed another giggle, offering my daughter a valiant attempt at a straight face. I nodded, and Annie let Mr. Slippers off his lead. However, when he returned, a wave of terror coursed through my body. The cat wasn't in the same state as a few minutes earlier. There was blood on his smiling lips. Yes, he was smiling. A real-life Cheshire cat. I'm certain of it, though this is the first time I've ever told anyone. What's on your face, Mr. Slippers? Annie asked. I cleared my throat, bending down to pick up the cat. Let me clean you up, pal. Of course, any attempts to wipe the blood off his face only seemed to spread it more deeply into his fur. And it wasn't just on his lips. Mr. Slippers' grey coat was stained a deep, unsettling red. I know cats are predators. You didn't see the conniving look on his face. You didn't see the inordinate amount of blood. What were you hunting? I asked the grey bundle in my arms as we strolled back to the car. When we arrived home, I gave Mr. Slippers a bath. I didn't want Annie to get a good look at him. It was as I mindlessly scrolled down the town's Facebook page that I saw something truly disconcerting. Something's run riot in the local park. Found dead squirrels and birds everywhere. Ripped to shreds. Kids were traumatised. Absolutely gross. Clean it up, council. I wanted to give Mr. Slippers the benefit of the doubt. We all know how cats can be. But he had a sinisterly stoic disposition that terrified me beyond measure. And when I looked up from my phone, I was horrified to see the cat sitting upright in the bath, legs straight, as if he were a person. He wasn't smiling or sulking. He wasn't doing anything but watching me. His endless black eyes burrowed into my soul. That petrified me more than his slaughtering spree in the park. The following Monday, I saw something that really made my skin tighten. On the lampposts of our street, my "Found Mr. Slippers" posters had been covered. Plastered over them, there were dozens of "Missing Richie" posters. A young boy, no older than Annie, was beaming from a heartbreaking photo. I had a terrible feeling in my gut, and that feeling heightened as I drove Annie home at the end of the day. There were more missing posters, but not for the same child. Emma and Sam. Dozens and dozens of posters for the 3 missing children. I had a haunting suspicion that the horror lived very close to home. So, that evening, I slept on the floor of Annie's room. "A sleepover on a school night?" she asked excitedly. "Yeah, don't get too used to it," I replied, smiling weakly. I didn't want to let her see the thinly veiled horror that was swimming beneath the surface of my face. "Oh, Mr. Slippers should join us," my daughter giggled, not so subtly asking for permission. My heart slowed. Not tonight, Annie. Sleep tight." She huffed. "Okay, night, Dad." I did manage to briefly sleep, but I had a feverish nightmare, a horrible dream of scratching sounds on the bedroom door. An avalanche of missing children posters, and then, finally, blood-stained hairballs filling my mouth. I woke in a terrified sweat around 1 a.m. My eyes were immediately drawn to Annie's wide-open bedroom door. I shot my gaze to her bed, and my chest loosened a little when I saw that she was safely snoring away. But then I heard a horrifying crunching sound, the undeniable sign of a midnight feast. I turned my head to the corner of the room, and I clutched my mouth with both hands to stop the scream. Standing on his 2 hind legs, looking comfortably bipedal, was Mr. Slippers. He looked far taller. His hind legs had lengthened, and his front legs looked more like arms. Lit by the yellow glow of Annie's nightlight, the humanoid thing was feasting on something it held in its front paws. That's when a sickening sensation overcame me. I pulled the blanket off my quivering body and screamed. My left foot was gone. Blood stained the carpet in its place, but I didn't understand how I hadn't felt a thing. Mr. Slippers had stitched the stump. I shakily sprang up, supporting myself on my right foot. Wobbling unsteadily, I eyed the frightening feline in the corner of the room. It smiled as it tucked into my severed foot before my eyes. I limped over to Annie. As she started to stir, I quickly stopped her from removing her eye mask. "We're going to play a game," I trembled. "No peeking." The munching from the corner of the room abruptly stopped. Mr. Slippers was playing a game of his own. I thought of the missing children and wondered whether they were dead. Of course, as horrible as it sounds, I realised that might be kinder than the alternative. 3 limbless, half-alive children in some lightless lair, perhaps deep in the park. With Annie clinging to my back, I hobbled along the landing, but a scurrying noise suddenly stopped me. Tiny padding paws. Fearfully, my eyes scanned the carpet. Nothing. My gaze was slowly drawn to the ceiling, and there he clung, Mr. Slippers. As the silently smiling cat dropped, I screamed and hurtled down the stairs, wincing at every painful step on my footless stump. Limping towards the front door, I felt Annie's fingers dig into my chest. "Dad, I don't like this game," she whimpered. "Don't take off that eye mask," I firmly instructed. I clumsily unlocked the latch and started to open the front door, but a searing sensation gripped me, more agonising than any pain I've ever felt. Wrapped around my left stump, Mr. Slippers was sinking his teeth into my ankle. I shrieked, feeling his fangs tear at my skin, trying to take another pound of flesh. Grabbing the side of the open door for support, I swung my right foot at the abnormally shaped cat, and it connected squarely with his hefty body. The abomination disconnected from my leg and flew through the darkened entryway of my house. Blood gushing from the reopened wound on my stump, I painfully hobbled into the middle of the street, screaming for help. Help! House lights appeared, and neighbours flooded onto the scene. Somebody called emergency services, and I passed out on my front lawn. Annie and I have been staying with her grandparents for the past few weeks, but I was brave enough to return to the house yesterday. There was no sign of the humanoid feline. Of course, I know he's still out there. So this tale is a warning. If you find a cat with Mr. Slippers on his collar, get as far away from him as possible. Do not invite him into your home.